We're going to look at threats. Threats are at the cross section of harmful and external. We have that ship that is out to sea and the storm is coming. Nothing the ship can do about it. It's coming except for try and navigate it at all, if at all possible. And we'll talk a little bit about how to combine your strengths and opportunities in order to negate the threats. Maybe the boat has a special technology that can ward off hurricanes, or maybe it has a special speed, light speed that it can get away from the hurricane. Maybe they've got a special technology that tells them where the storm is heading and they're going to go in the other direction. All sorts of things. So we'll talk about that in a minute. Let's take a look at threats. Write down any outside events that could occur that could impact your organization and consider the following. Specifically, what obstacles do you face that are imposed upon you? So not ones that you're creating yourselves, but what are out there that are impeding your progress? What are your competitors' strengths? That's a threat to you as well, right? An outside harmful item, harmful threat. What are they doing well? Maybe they're going to take some of your donors. Maybe they're going to take some of your revenue. Maybe they are branding themselves in a way that, purposefully or not, makes your organization look not so hot. Because maybe they found a really cool way to brand themselves that really speaks to the target audience, and now you guys are kind of left in an archaic land. So that goes hand in hand with what are they doing that you're not? Are they doing something special that's working? Can you replicate it or improve upon it even better? And what's going on in the industry? What are the current trends, kind of similar to the opportunities, current trends, interesting or notable things going on in your field or service area, but maybe they're not so good. Maybe an article came out that said that something about your not your organization specifically, but the area that you work in, that there's some shady business going on. Maybe there is a really, really well-known organization in your field. Let's just take the American Cancer Society just for example. Let's say something happened in the organization that the public didn't like so much. Or maybe there was a misleading headline that came out and you're in that field as well. And now it hurts the entire industry because, true or not, something happened, something came out that was not beneficial. And likewise, what's going on in politics or the economy. So these are all related. This is a big one for a lot of nonprofits right now. Recently, the tax code changed. So going forward, tax deductions are very likely to decrease from individual donors because of the way that the tax code is now. Not as much can be written off. So that's a big one. So you're probably going to see a decrease in donor funds, which again lends itself to part of the reason why you're in this program, taking this workshop, taking this course to look at earned revenue possibilities, because diversifying your revenue streams is really important because of things like that, things that are out of your control. Overnight, tax bill was passed, and now this coming year, donations are probably going to decrease. And if donations take up a large chunk of your budget, it's a serious threat to your organization. Okay, let's figure out how to put some of this together. Oh, I didn't have this slide up. Oh yeah, a few more. We do have a few more threats. Okay, so when analyzing organizational threats, also consider the following. So what financial resource obstacles do you face? This is related to the donor question, but it could be other things as well. Maybe grant money is running out. Maybe you've been going out of pocket, and that's a threat because maybe you can't sustain going out of pocket for your organization. Are there any new regulations or policies that we discussed? Increased costs or declining funds? This one is related to what's going on in the industry, politics, economy, bad press. Is there any adverse public reaction to a funding technique you're using? Or maybe something that's going on in the industry or your organization specifically? Have you had any bad press lately? And think about this as well to plan for the future. What could result in bad press if something you're doing was interpreted the wrong way? Maybe you have the best of intentions, but maybe something wasn't conveyed the right way. Think about what those things could be. What story could break that could really hurt you? Think about also, is your size, visibility, success, or revenue track record likely to hurt you in the future? Do you have bad debt or cash flow problems? Bad debt would be you took on a loan, maybe it was a high interest rate, maybe you're having trouble paying it back, maybe you've defaulted on some loans. These are really, really important and relevant things to write down because it could handcuff your financial potential going forward. Cash flow problems. Do you have more money? That means do you have more money going out than you have coming in? That'll be a negative cash flow. So the money that you have coming in just isn't cutting it and you're bleeding money month to month. Maybe you have positive cash flow, but it's really minuscule. Maybe you just barely have enough coming in to pay the bills and keep the lights on and pay your overhead costs, but that's about it. And you're desperate for volunteers in that way because you can't pay people to stay in the building. So finally, it's also worth thinking about if any of your weaknesses seriously threaten your organization. So although it's not necessarily outside, it could become a threat to the organization as a whole when your internal weakness becomes so big that it could seriously threaten. So maybe one of your weaknesses is that you have a small staff. Maybe there are only 3 of you in your entire organization and the rest are all volunteers. So one of those threats could be volunteers one day just decide to stop coming. 2 could be a life change of one of the individuals that is working for you. So 3 of you. And one of you has a life change and decides that this isn't the direction they want to go anymore. Something changed. They're not interested. Now there's 2 of you. A third of your organization's paid staff just left. That would be a threat as well. So although that weakness was internal, the weakness was, well, we only have three people. The threat is the outside influence of life change. Life change is that outside threat or outside circumstance that caused us to lose somebody. That's where that weakness can become a threat. So think about those as well and how to mitigate them. Okay, so once you have your list of statements, you can begin to prioritize the statements in each SWOT area. So by now you should have a list of each of these statements, answering some of these questions. When you answer the questions, you turn them into the form of a statement. You know, we have bad debt. That's a statement. Okay, so once you have the statements, prioritize which ones are most important, least important, or most relevant, least relevant. Circle 2 or 3 in each area that are most urgent and important. That's the way I would categorize it. Things that are urgent are time sensitive. It means it must be done now. Things that are not urgent can be pushed off. Similarly, or sort of conversely, differently, important are things that are of high value. So if it's not important, it means it doesn't matter. If the thing happens or doesn't happen, it doesn't affect you. If the thing happens or doesn't happen and it affects you greatly, it's very important. So make that distinction between urgent and important. Urgent is time sensitive, important is not. Urgent just means fire drill. That's all it means. It doesn't tell you how big the fire is. It could have been a candle, or it could have been the house is burning down. Candle would be not important. House burning down is super important. Urgent is I have to blow out the candle right now, but it's not very important. If I don't blow out the candle, it's not a big deal, but I do have to blow it out. Okay, differences between those two. So circle 2 or 3 in each area that are both time sensitive and important. And then we start combining them. So where can an earned income stream capitalize on a strength? Getting back to earned income now. Thinking about revenue streams in the form of earned income. Where can an earned income stream capitalize on a strength? What weaknesses need to be minimized or eliminated to gain the best advantage for a new or enhanced earned income stream? Which opportunities appear to support a strength or help eliminate a weakness? Which of the threats could materialize in the next, let's say, 12 months and undermine an income strategy that you're coming up with? So all of these are geared towards thinking about those earned incomes now. Now, of course, you can use the SWOT just as a generic overview and strategy for the entire organization. But I'm specifically looking at earned income now. When you're starting to think about some of those earned income ideas, which threats could materialize in the next 12 months that would undermine one of those strategies? So now we're going to put it all together. This is where it gets kind of interesting and fun. So you combine your strengths and your opportunities to create new strategies. You combine your strengths to eliminate threats. Let me give you an example. So let's say before we talked about having only 3 people. Well, maybe one of your strengths is that you have 100 people. And one of the threats was there could be a change in a competitor a competitor just decided that they're going to expand and hire a bunch of people. Well, if one of your strengths is that you have a bunch of people, if you lose a few, it's not a big deal. So you can cross off that threat because, well, our competitor just said they're going to hire a bunch of people, and yeah, that's a threat. But how big of a threat is it? If we have our strength of we have a lot of people, and one of the other strengths is we have a great brand, people like working for us, those are two strengths that you put together, that eliminates a threat. You're not really so concerned about losing a quarter or a fifth of your workforce base because you not only have a good brand, people like working with you, but you also have 100 people. Let's just say 100. Okay, and the other one is said that they're going to hire 10 or 20 more people. Not a huge threat. Not a huge threat. Okay, so moving on, combine your weaknesses and your opportunities to know what areas to improve. So that's like something happens on the outside. An opportunity is a door that's open and something that you're not that great at. And you know that you can improve this. So there's an opportunity that comes. Maybe there's this is an opportunity here. Let's say that you knew you had to diversify your budget. You had to diversify your funding streams because there was the real threat of grant money running out, or government funding not coming through, or donations decreasing. Those were all threats, or weaknesses in a sense. If it was internal as well, maybe you had some internal issues. But you saw the opportunity to take a class that talked about diversifying in the form of earned income, and now you're improving and you're helping to plug that gap. Okay, another thing you can do is combine your weaknesses and threats and just run away. Do not touch it with a 30-foot pole. Those weaknesses and threats are danger zones. You can try and avoid them. That would be like steering around the hurricane that's coming at us. Okay, so here's the cool part. This is something I kind of created myself. In order to come up with your ideal earned income strategy, you take your assets from the asset chart, things that you have, things you can leverage. They might be related to your strengths, but strengths could also be skill sets that you have and other things. So you combine those two together. You look at open doors that are out there, which are opportunities. You eliminate your weaknesses or mitigate your weaknesses. You eliminate threats or mitigate threats. And then you take a look at your visionary solution. So going back to mission-minded, visionary-minded, when we were writing down, what is your organization's mission? If you could solve the problem, what would it look like? What would the world look like in 100 years? What is your vision? What is your vision? Okay, that statement right there, what your visionary solution would look like to make the problem go away completely. And this is, I put in parentheses there because this is your mission-focused visionary solution. So having that pie in the sky. Combining all these things together, assets, strengths, opportunities, mitigating weaknesses, mitigating threats, combining that with your visionary solution, you have your ideal earned income strategy, hopefully. Okay, take a minute to put all those together and see what that might look like. See if you can come up with something around it. Okay, let's do a quick review. So a SWOT is a tool to analyze the positioning of your organization and stands for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. So it's often best to complete this with a team or with board members in order to get as many ideas in the room as you can and to spark long-term strategies. Combine your assets, strengths, opportunities, and visionary solution, eliminate those weaknesses and threats, and you get your ideal, I call it ideal because it's the pie in the sky, earned income strategy. It might not be the actual one you go forward with, but that's where you start. Why not start with the ideal? And then we'll start to chisel it and bring it back to reality a little bit. Okay, that's it. That's all for SWOT analysis. Don't forget to give feedback in the Facebook group and to attend office hours. This has been Drew Hackman with Nonprofits for the Future, the Roadmap to New Funding Sources. See you soon.